What if a compliment that sounds sweet at first actually leaves you feeling uncomfortable? For many little people navigating the dating world, comments about height, appearance, or being so cute can carry a very different meaning than the person giving the compliment intended. Dating already comes with rejection, awkward first conversations, mixed signals, and the pressure to make a good impression. But imagine adding another layer to all of that, having someone judge you, approach you, or express interest in you primarily because of your height rather than because of who you are. That is one of the important conversations explored through Little Singles, where cast members open up about dating, attraction, misconceptions, confidence, and the challenges of finding a genuine connection. Because there is a big difference between being attracted to someone and being fascinated by a physical difference. And sometimes, a comment that was meant to be flattering can unintentionally reveal exactly how someone sees you. Introduction. In this video, we're taking a closer look at what dating can actually feel like for little people, particularly when attraction becomes tangled up with stereotypes, assumptions, and preconceived ideas. What happens when someone believes they're being complimentary, but the person receiving the comment experiences it as patronizing, objectifying, or simply uncomfortable? We'll explore why certain compliments can cross a line, how little people navigate first impressions and dating expectations, and why genuine attraction should involve far more than someone's height or physical appearance. We'll also look at the emotional side of dating, the desire to be seen as attractive without being reduced to a physical characteristic, the frustration of being misunderstood, and the importance of finding someone who is interested in the whole person. Most importantly, this conversation isn't about saying that every compliment is offensive or that every dating experience for little people is negative. It's about understanding context. The same words can feel completely different depending on who says them, why they're saying them, and whether they're actually making an effort to get to know the person behind the appearance. Because at the end of the day, everyone wants to feel wanted for who they are, not simply noticed for what makes them different. And that's where the real conversation begins. One of the biggest challenges in modern dating is that first impressions happen almost instantly. Before two people have exchanged more than a few words, appearance can influence whether someone approaches, swipes right, or decides to start a conversation. For little people, height can become an unusually visible part of that first impression. Instead of immediately wondering about their personality, interests, humor, or values, someone may focus on their stature first. And that is where dating can become complicated. There is nothing inherently wrong with being attracted to someone who is a little person. Attraction is personal, and physical appearance naturally plays a role in dating. The problem begins when someone's height becomes the entire reason for the attraction, or when curiosity replaces genuine interest. For the cast of Little Singles, this distinction becomes especially important. A person may be curious about what it is like to date a little person, but curiosity alone does not create a meaningful relationship. Genuine connection requires two people to see each other as individuals, with their own personalities, ambitions, insecurities, humor, and dreams. Imagine going on a date and realizing that the other person seems more interested in asking questions about your height than learning about your life. Even if those questions are asked without bad intentions, they can make the experience feel less like a date and more like an interview. That does not mean every question about being a little person is offensive. In a healthy relationship, partners should be able to talk openly about differences, experiences, accessibility, and challenges. The difference is often found in how those questions are asked and whether there is genuine interest in the person behind them. For many little people, dating can involve constantly figuring out whether someone is attracted to them or simply fascinated by their difference. That uncertainty can make an already vulnerable experience even more complicated. And this is where Little Singles offers a broader conversation about modern dating. The people searching for love on the show are not simply defined by their height. They are individuals looking for chemistry, emotional connection, respect, laughter, trust, and someone who sees them as a complete person. Ultimately, the strongest first impression is not about height at all. It is about the feeling two people create when they begin talking. A genuine connection starts when curiosity turns into conversation, conversation turns into understanding, and understanding creates the possibility of something real. Because when the first impression fades, what remains is the person. And that is the part of dating that truly matters. Now we get to the central issue. The compliment that sounds positive on the surface, but can actually feel uncomfortable, dismissive, or even insulting. Words like cute, adorable, or comments about someone being so tiny or so small may be intended as affectionate. But for an adult navigating the dating world, those words can sometimes carry a completely different message. Instead of making someone feel attractive, they can create the impression that they are being viewed more like a child than a potential romantic partner. And that distinction matters. Imagine meeting someone for the first time. You are hoping to have a genuine conversation, learn about each other, and discover whether there is a connection. But before the other person asks about your interests, your personality, your goals, or even your sense of humor, their attention immediately goes to your height. Even when there is no malicious intention behind the comment, it can still feel uncomfortable. The person may walk away wondering, did they actually notice me, or did they only notice how I look? For someone searching for a serious relationship, that can become frustrating over time. Everyone wants to be appreciated as a complete person. Physical appearance can obviously play a role in attraction, but nobody wants to feel as though one physical characteristic has become their entire identity. This is where the difference between curiosity and objectification becomes important. There is nothing inherently wrong with someone being interested in a person's height or wanting to understand their experience. The problem can arise when every interaction begins and ends with that one subject. A person might be funny, ambitious, romantic, adventurous, thoughtful, or incredibly confident. They may have a career they love, hobbies they are passionate about, and a completely unique personality. But if the conversation keeps returning to their height, all those other qualities can disappear behind one physical characteristic. And sometimes, the word cute itself becomes complicated. Calling someone cute isn't automatically disrespectful. Between two people who already know each other, it can be a genuinely affectionate expression. A romantic partner saying, "You're so cute," can communicate warmth, attraction, and intimacy. But when a stranger uses the same word immediately after meeting an adult little person, the meaning can feel very different. Context changes everything. There is a major difference between someone saying, "You look great tonight," and someone saying, "You're so cute because you're tiny." The first focuses on the person as an adult and potential romantic interest. The second can unintentionally make their stature the center of the interaction. That doesn't mean every person who makes such a comment has bad intentions. Many people simply haven't thought about how their words might sound from the other person's perspective. And that's an important part of this conversation. Dating involves two people learning about each other. Misunderstandings are going to happen. Someone can say something awkward without intending to hurt anyone. What matters is whether they are willing to listen when they learn that the comment wasn't received the way they intended. For little people, this can make the early stages of dating especially complicated. There may be moments when they have to decide whether to laugh off a comment, explain why it bothered them, or simply move on from the interaction. That can become emotionally exhausting. Imagine having to repeatedly educate potential dates about the difference between genuine attraction and fascination with your appearance. Imagine wondering whether someone is interested in you because they genuinely like your personality, or because dating a little person feels unusual or exciting to them. Those questions can create uncertainty before a relationship has even had a chance to develop. But there is another side to this conversation that is equally important. Not every compliment about height is automatically offensive. People have different personalities, different boundaries, and different senses of humor. Some little people may genuinely enjoy playful comments about their height, especially when those comments come from someone they trust. The key issue is not simply the word being used. It is the relationship between the two people, the tone of the conversation, the intention behind the comment, and most importantly, how the person receiving it feels. A joke that makes two partners laugh together can feel completely different when the same joke comes from a stranger who knows nothing about you. That is why dating is ultimately about more than finding someone who is attracted to you. It is about finding someone who sees you. Someone who can notice your height without reducing you to it. Someone who can appreciate your appearance while still being curious about your personality. Someone who can find you attractive without turning your difference into a novelty. And perhaps most importantly, someone who understands that being little does not make someone less adult, less independent, or less deserving of a serious romantic relationship. Because at the end of the day, the best compliment isn't necessarily the one that focuses on how someone looks. Sometimes, it's the one that makes them feel truly understood. This distinction becomes especially important when dating involves a visible physical difference. Attraction itself is not the problem. People are naturally drawn to different qualities, appearances, personalities, and experiences. The problem begins when attraction stops being about a whole person and becomes almost entirely about one characteristic. For a little person, that can create an uncomfortable feeling of being viewed as a category rather than as an individual. Someone might say they have always been attracted to little people, for example. On the surface, that may sound like a preference, but the person hearing it may wonder, do you actually like me, or do you simply like the idea of someone who looks like me? That question can be difficult because intentions are not always obvious at the beginning of a relationship. A person may genuinely be interested while also being curious about someone's physical difference. Curiosity isn't automatically harmful. What matters is whether that curiosity respects boundaries and allows the relationship to develop naturally. There is also a difference between asking respectful questions and constantly making someone's height the center of attention. When every conversation returns to someone's body, height, or physical differences, it can become exhausting. Instead of feeling admired, the person may feel observed. Healthy attraction leaves room for complexity. You can be attracted to someone's appearance while still wanting to know their sense of humor, their ambitions, their values, their interests, and the way they treat other people. And ultimately, that is what many people want when they enter the dating world, to be seen as a complete person. Being different may be part of someone's story, but it shouldn't have to become the entire story. Dating has changed dramatically with the rise of dating apps and social media. Today, people can make decisions about potential partners within seconds, sometimes based on nothing more than a few photographs, a short biography, and a handful of carefully chosen words. For little people, online dating can create both opportunities and challenges. On the positive side, dating apps can make it easier to meet people outside a person's immediate social circle. Someone who might rarely encounter other potential partners in everyday life can suddenly connect with people from different communities, backgrounds, and locations. But that wider access can also come with a downside. Dating apps encourage quick decisions. A person may swipe left or right before learning anything meaningful about someone's personality, values, interests, or sense of humor. And when physical appearance is already something that attracts attention, height can become an especially prominent part of the conversation. Some messages may be respectful and genuinely interested. Others may immediately focus on height, appearance, or what it is like to date a little person. There is an important difference between asking thoughtful questions because you want to understand someone and treating their physical difference like a source of entertainment or fascination. That difference can sometimes become obvious very quickly. Imagine receiving a first message that doesn't ask about your hobbies, your favorite music, your career, or what you're looking for in a relationship. Instead, the very first question is about your height. Another message might make assumptions about what you can or cannot do simply because of your stature. Even when the person sending the message believes they are being curious or complimentary, the experience can feel uncomfortable. This is where communication becomes incredibly important. A respectful conversation gives both people the opportunity to establish boundaries. It also allows them to discover whether there is genuine compatibility beyond physical attraction. Someone might initially notice a person's height, but a healthy relationship cannot be built around one characteristic alone. Over time, what matters is how two people communicate, how they treat each other, whether they respect boundaries, and whether they genuinely enjoy one another's company. Social media can make this even more complicated. Photos and short videos can create an impression of someone's life without showing the full person behind the screen. A viewer may think they understand someone based on a few posts, when in reality, they are seeing only carefully selected moments. For little people, that can sometimes mean being perceived through stereotypes before they even have a chance to introduce themselves. The challenge, then, is not simply finding someone who is attracted to you. It's finding someone who is interested in you as a whole person. Dating apps may create the first connection, but meaningful communication determines what happens next. And when someone is willing to look beyond the profile picture, ask genuine questions, listen to the answers, and respect boundaries, that's when online dating can begin to turn into something much more meaningful. Dating involves rejection for almost everyone. No matter who you are, there will be moments when someone isn't interested, a conversation doesn't work out, or a potential relationship simply doesn't develop. But for little people, repeated experiences of being misunderstood, stereotyped, or treated differently can add another layer to that rejection. And over time, those experiences can affect confidence. That's why confidence in dating isn't necessarily about never feeling hurt or uncomfortable. It's about understanding that another person's reaction does not determine your value. If someone makes an insensitive comment, asks an inappropriate question, or treats you differently because of your height, that behavior says more about their assumptions than it does about you. One important part of maintaining confidence is learning how to set boundaries. And setting a boundary doesn't mean assuming that everyone has bad intentions. Sometimes people are simply curious, inexperienced, or unaware that something they said could be uncomfortable. But curiosity doesn't automatically give someone permission to cross a personal line. Being able to say, "That makes me uncomfortable," or "I'd rather not talk about that," can be a powerful form of self-respect. And just as importantly, the other person should be willing to listen and respect that boundary. A healthy dating experience should give both people room to communicate openly. If someone responds to a boundary with understanding, that's a positive sign. If they dismiss it, make fun of it, or repeatedly cross the same line, that can tell you something important about whether the relationship is healthy. Rejection can also teach an important lesson. Not every rejection means something is wrong with you. Sometimes two people simply aren't compatible. Sometimes someone isn't ready for a relationship. And sometimes a person may have assumptions or preferences that you cannot and should not have to change. The most important lesson is that confidence doesn't require pretending uncomfortable experiences never happen. Sometimes confidence means acknowledging what happened, understanding why it bothered you, and deciding what you will and won't accept moving forward. Because confidence isn't about convincing everyone else to see your worth. It's about knowing your worth yourself and refusing to let someone else's judgment become the definition of who you are. One reason conversations like these resonate with viewers is that the experiences shown on Little Singles connect to much broader issues in dating and relationships. People often enter the dating world carrying assumptions about what their ideal partner should look like, how that person should behave, or what kind of life they should have. But real relationships rarely fit perfectly into a predetermined checklist. Attraction can develop in unexpected ways, and compatibility is often discovered only after two people take the time to understand each other. The stories of little people navigating dating can challenge viewers to think differently about attraction. Instead of immediately asking, "Would I date someone like that?" Perhaps the more meaningful question is, Would I take the time to get to know that person? That shift may sound simple, but it can completely change the conversation. It moves the focus away from assumptions and toward personality, communication, shared values, humor, trust, and genuine connection. And perhaps that's one of the most important lessons viewers can take from Little Singles. Everyone deserves to be seen as a complete person, rather than being defined by one physical characteristic. At the same time, it's important to separate the individual experiences shown on reality television from assumptions about little people as a whole. Little Singles presents individual stories, personalities, relationships, and experiences. Those stories can create meaningful conversations, but they shouldn't be treated as a universal description of everyone's dating life. Some little people may enjoy being called cute or adorable. Others may find those words uncomfortable. Some may have experienced fetishization, while others may never have encountered it. Some may appreciate direct conversations about height, while others may prefer that a date focus on their interests, personality, career, or sense of humor instead. There is no single experience. That's why listening to the individual matters so much. A comment that feels harmless to one person may feel patronizing to another. A question that one person is comfortable answering may cross a boundary for someone else. The healthiest approach isn't to memorize a list of things you can or cannot say. It's to treat the person in front of you as an individual, pay attention to their reaction, and respect what they tell you. Ultimately, Little Singles can open the door to these conversations, but the most important lesson happens beyond the screen. Don't assume you already know someone's story. Take the time to listen, understand, and let people define themselves on their own terms. At the end of the day, the biggest lesson from this conversation is surprisingly simple. People want to be seen as people. A compliment isn't automatically meaningful just because it sounds positive. What truly matters is whether it respects the person receiving it. Dating as a little person can involve many of the same emotions experienced by anyone else: excitement, attraction, nervousness, rejection, hope, and the search for someone who genuinely understands you. But when height becomes the first and only thing someone notices, that search can become much more complicated. Little Singles gives viewers an opportunity to look beyond assumptions and recognize that attraction isn't simply about appearance. Real connection comes from conversation, respect, humor, trust, shared experiences, and the feeling that someone is interested in who you are, rather than simply what makes you different. And perhaps that's the real takeaway. Before calling someone cute or adorable, or making assumptions about what their height means, take a moment to actually get to know them. Because the best compliment isn't necessarily the one that sounds the sweetest. Sometimes, it's simply treating someone as an equal and showing genuine interest in the person standing in front of you. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.